Welcome to the HEARTS Entwined podcast. In this podcast, we'll be having discussions around the secrets which attract lasting, healthy, fulfilling relationships, creating a healthy mindset, and what women should know and understand about men. Introducing your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts, relationship expert, trainer, speaker, and best-selling author of the Cupid's Bow technique. Lyn's mission is to have a positive impact in reducing divorce, domestic violence, and suicide.
Welcome to the HEARTS Entwined podcast. This is your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts. And today, listeners, I've got a very special guest. And it's going to be a very special topic today because I don't think it's one I've specifically covered before. So my guest is Amanda Carroll. She's a single mum dating coach and also the founder of the Single Mum Collective. And we're going to be talking all things single mums and dating today. So welcome, Amanda.
Hi, Lyn. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So single mom dating is your niche. Tell me a little bit about what led you to do what you're doing.
Well, it's, obviously something that I personally went through. I'm on a mission to help single moms not feel as alone and as afraid as I did when I became one. When I became one, I thought I was ruined. I grew up in what I call a high demand religion, evangelical world. And I thought I was taught as a young girl that my best case would be to get married to a man that could provide for me and have babies. And that man ended up being very abusive and had an affair and abandoned me with 3 little kids when they were 4, 2, and 8 weeks old. And all I had was a part-time job. I actually worked for a radio station. And I felt like I was ruined, like I was absolutely thrown out with the trash. And I felt like no one would ever love me again. And the entire world that I grew up in, which was finding my worth because of who I was with, right? And I realized that it was just all extremely abusive and damaging. And I didn't want to be a part of it anymore. So I had to rebuild my life and provide for my 3 children on my own. I had a part-time radio show in Washington, D.C. Of all things, I was working for a Christian radio station that was owned by a church, and I did their morning radio show. And I was convinced that they were going to fire me. And even though it wasn't my fault that I was getting divorced, that my ex had left, but it was just such a thing in that culture to go through a divorce. It was seen as so terrible. But they didn't. They ended up wrapping their arms around me. And I set a goal. I was like, okay, well, I've got to make this radio thing work instead of just playing with it as a part-time job, relying on my ex-husband. I just decided, well, I'm going to do the thing. I'd always wanted a national radio show. So I set the goal and I put in this goal setting process that I now call the metamorphosis method. And a year to the date that my ex-husband abandoned me with 3 children, I was on a flight moving from DC to California because I had gotten a national radio show. And I was on 600 radio stations across the United States. And I had 10 million listeners. And
Wow.
I was building back my life and ended up buying my own home in Northern California and realized other single moms need to know that they're not ruined too.
Fantastic.
And I was breaking free from, I in 2020, after the pandemic, the Christian evangelical world got even weirder in the United States, that I didn't want to be a part of it anymore. And so I left to start this coaching program and this online community to free single moms from feeling ruined, help heal them from purity culture, and help them find a high value partner like I did. And I'm now remarried, and I now have a blended family of 5 teenagers.
Wow. What a fantastic story. So tell me a little bit more, because I've never heard of this term purity culture. So
Okay.
explain a little bit more for those of us across the pond, or maybe, other people across the United States that might not have heard that term.
Well, really, it's the abstinence culture. When you think about it's a lot of the extreme high demand religions teaching you to wait to have sex until you're married. And it's very much brought up back in the early 90s when I was a teenager growing up in church, they had these purity ceremonies and they'd give you a purity ring. And you as a woman were seen like your whole job was to stay pure and abstain from sex until you found your one and only partner. And and in theory, they felt like this was a biblical rule, but really what it does is it puts shame on the woman, and you're raised to really feel like your only worth is saving your body for your future husband. You don't learn any body autonomy. Your body is now you're owned by your future husband. You've got to save that for him. And research now shows how incredibly damaging it is. And the scary thing is, it's still taught in the evangelical culture. And it not only the research shows that, again, this teaches women that we don't even have control of our own bodies. We're not even able to say no, and that it's our duty to not tempt a man. And we are the controllers of everything. And you think sex is bad. You're scared to death of it growing up. And research shows that women that were taught purity culture and really abide by it, thinking that my whole worth is based on whether or not I am pure for marriage, that they actually have terrible sex lives because they're absolutely scared of it, and even pain during sex because of the mental thought about how negative it is. You just can't turn it. And so what I found, there's so many single women or women that have gone through a divorce because a lot of those relationships, most often the sex lives are terrible and it doesn't work out. They end up getting divorced and they don't know how to heal and find an equal partnership. And they don't know that it's okay to explore that side of a relationship.
And also the big pivotal thing I heard you mention there was the shame side of things, brought up with the shame around the whole idea of sex and being
Yep.
pure.
And there's something wrong with it instead of a beautiful way to connect with your partner. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you for explaining that, because as I say, it was a term that I'd never heard of. And, it sounds like it was a bit of a cult in that culture,
Yes.
so to
Yeah,
speak.
very much so. And at the time growing up, you just think that you are doing the best thing you can, and it took years to unravel that and to understand that my value isn't based on whether or not I was pure, my value is based on is that I'm a woman that can love. And I think there were some other issues that came up. It was very much seen in that culture that if you go through divorce or you have children, that you should then wait until the children are grown to ever find a partner or to find love again. And I also think that's terrible. Because I think
Yes.
the best case scenario is children need to see their mother in a healthy relationship to model what a healthy relationship looks like. And so often I speak to the single mothers, kind of coaching them. Yes, you can date, because so many of them just absolutely turn that part of their lives off. And they're like, I'm ruined. I'm just going to focus on my kids. And then I'll date when they're grown. I'm like, no, that's actually the worst thing you could do. Because again, it doesn't model a healthy relationship. You become very lonely. Your children find pity on you, and your whole life is wrapped around them when they need to have their own lives and they need to be able to move on. And you end up having a very sad existence. And that's what I want to cure. So that's why I teach single moms with my goal setting program, Metamorphosis Method, and my dating program. It's called Love Unlocked, a dating revolution for single moms. It's how to heal from the past, build your own life, like become your own woman, make your own money, buy your own house, be financially independent, because that helps you make a better choice in a partner and have great sex and have a beautiful relationship, and that you deserve it, that you don't have to punish yourself for the rest of your life because you got divorced.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of abstinence before you actually get married, and also abstinence, that you need to think you have to stay in once that relationship doesn't work and you get divorced.
Right. Like you have to punish yourself to be alone and abstinent for the rest of your life. And it's just extremely damaging because, as we all know, it's a human need and it's a way we connect with each other. And it makes us feel good. It gives us more confidence. It gives us more energy and all of these things you need. And instead of really using it to punish and control women.
Yeah, absolutely. Aren't we fighting a few battles of late?
Ugh. Being in the States, it's crazy right now. Yeah.
Well, I think you're doing an admirable job, Amanda. I'm really, really, really happy that you got yourself out of that environment because,
Yeah.
staying in that sort of environment sort of only sort of, for some people, they can't see any other options, can they?
No, and yeah, gosh, that's so hard. And I guess, if anyone's listening and maybe you're feeling that or you're in that kind of an environment right now, I just like listen to your intuition because most often we always think something's not right about this, right? Like, I don't feel like this is fair. Or why do I have to live like this? Listen to that intuition and follow it because, we only get one trip around the block in life. And I think we are meant to make our trip count, not just survive, not play small because we're women or mothers, and not just build up our worth based on how much we sacrifice for our families. Instead, let's go pursue every dream you've ever thought of. One of the things that we say in the Single Mom Collective is we have a rule that we're done dreaming small. Like, just because you became a single mother and you're doing it all on your own, you don't have to be done dreaming small. Like, if there's anything that we must be done dreaming small, because we're usually the only ones that are showing our children what happens when you actually go and pursue the dreams that you really want and look at the big life that you can live and explore all of these things. I love the metaphor of the butterfly.
Yes.
That's why, because it's proof that we can become an entire new creation if we just go and do the work on ourselves, right? If we just go into a cocoon and we heal and we do the work and we can transform. And I got like really nerdy and geeky when it came into, I had this idea. I was like, I'm gonna do this program and I love butterflies and I'm gonna call it metamorphosis because that's like what I felt like I went through when I got out of high demand evangelical religion and got divorced and like reinvented my life with my children and then dated and got married again. It's like I felt like an entire new person. Like I don't even recognize that previous version of me. And it's like the metamorphosis of a butterfly. Like one day you're like a caterpillar and you're just crawling around in the dirt. And then you think, you know what? I don't know. Like, does the caterpillar even know that it gets to eventually fly and be this beautiful creation? Like, I would really like to know if it actually knows, but I don't think it does. It just instinctively goes into a cocoon and then turns into a pile of goo before it starts to transform. And like, I think when my ex left me and I had two kids in diapers and I was still breastfeeding and still wearing maternity clothes, I definitely felt like a pile of goo. Like I was just a disaster. I was a train wreck. But I put this process in order of setting a goal and I decided to do one brave thing a day to move my life forward. That is it. Because a lot of times, a transformation that you want in your life, it's finding love, finding the right partner, healing. It just seems so overwhelming that so many women, they don't even try. And that's what breaks my heart is they convince themselves that men are so bad and dating is so scary that I'm just going to stay single for the rest of my life. And that's such a false reward. You think it's protecting you, but really it's making you feel lonely and it's more hurtful. So you go into this pile of goo and then you decide, okay, I'm just going to do one brave thing a day to try to heal and move my life forward. And then eventually you become this new creation. And then it's time to like get out of the cocoon. And the science of what happens when it's the chrysalis stage, actually, when the caterpillar, it's transformed and it's time to go, it's time to get out of the cocoon and fly. You know what's interesting is if somebody comes along and tries to open up that chrysalis, like if you're at a butterfly museum, I don't know if you've seen one of those, and if somebody opens it up, oh, look at that they're trying to get out, I'll help them out. It can't fly because it is the struggle to get out of the chrysalis that gives the butterfly's wings the strength to fly.
Yeah.
So it is exactly the struggle to find love that gives you the ability to have it. You know, it is exactly the struggle to rebuild your life post divorce or as a single mom. That's what was my defining factor in my life. Like, I never would have bought my own home, moved to California, had a national radio show, started my own community to serve single moms, and get married again to an incredible partner. I never would have done any of those things if my ex hadn't abused and abandoned me. Right. So I think there's always a way we can be like, okay, that struggle, that sucked. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me. So that you can then fly. And then what do butterflies become? They become pollinators. So they become pollinators that then spread beauty of flowers all over. So
Yeah.
instead of thinking that becoming a single mom was the worst thing that ever happened to you, you can heal, find love again, and then bring more love and bring your transformational story to everybody else. That's what I teach my moms.
Wow. That's so inspiring. That's brilliant. I loved it. And I have heard the story of the butterfly struggle before, so I knew what you was going to say. Um,
Okay.
but I also think that people don't have to look at the struggle as being a bad or negative thing, like you said. You know, the struggle might feel challenging in the moment, but you know, there's always a silver lining, isn't there?
Yeah.
And what I
If
tell
you
my
choose.
yeah, and what I tell my audience is that, you know what, at the end of the day, you've got 100% track record of succeeding and overcoming all your previous challenges. So just know that you'll do the same with this one.
I love that. Like, it's like, yeah, just say hello to courage. It's
Yes,
like, and that's why I don't know about you. Do you keep a journal?
yes.
I do too. And one of the things, it's weird because I keep a journal now so that I can look back on it. Because I have like over here, I'm looking at my bookcase. I have this bookcase of just filled up journals. And every once in a while on a hard day, I'll look back at one from a couple of years ago and I'll think, man, I thought I wasn't going to get through that. And I did. And it's just a reminder of what I've gotten through. So whatever thing I'm dealing with today, it's like, okay, it's going to be all right. I'm going to be just fine.
Absolutely. And
Hmm.
I don't necessarily do a daily journal. What I tend to do is if I'm going through a specifically challenging time, I'll
Yeah.
write it, you know, or do exercises
Yeah.
around what I know in terms of my own expertise to solve whatever it is I'm wrestling with at in the moment. And then that is my record of then something I can refer back to. But
I love that.
yeah, I think writing is a very cathartic thing to do, and it is
Mhm.
always a great thing to look back on to see how far you've come and to see that you have overcome that struggle or that challenge in the past. But for some people, it isn't always, I suppose, you know, something that's the best way for them to learn. You know, some people
Yeah.
find other things that help them more than journaling.
Yeah. It helps me. I go through different phases. I actually created a journal. It's called the Brave Single Mom Journal and Planner with some prompts. And I always find we do this in our program and we write down 10 things we're grateful for every day. And I think that it sounds so cheesy and so cliche, but I think it's one of the best, most powerful things you can do. My grandma used to say, your mind is like jello. You have to put in all the good stuff before it sets. I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. It is so, but it's so true. Like if you start your day like turning on the news and thinking that everything's going to be terrible, then everything's going to be terrible. But if you start your day going, you know what? Here's the things that are good in my life, and I'm really grateful for these things, then you have a better outlook. If you journal anything, I always say at least just write down 10 things you're grateful for, and just a practice for yourself. Because then I think it helps you heal and be a better partner for your partner and go and find love. It helps you, I think, be magnetic when you're grateful instead of fearful.
yeah. And I think during the single phase, you don't need to fear being in a single phase. You don't have to sort of be desperate to find love again because during your single phase, you know, you are healing, and I
Yeah.
think it's more important to become a better person rather than focus on trying to find a better person. You know, be the better person first.
Yes. I mean, you said it. That's what I tell all my, I was like, you can't, I was like, the worst thing you could do as soon as you get like separated from someone is to go date, because you'll end up finding like broken people find broken people, right? And the broken version of you is going to be a lot different than the healed version of you. And instead, and then you're going to end up with someone that liked the broken version of you. And then you're going to go through a healing process and you're going to look over and be like, why am I with you again? And I think that's how women, yeah, I think that's how women get stuck in relationships that are beneath them and that they feel not valued, is because they didn't do the work on their own and just felt like I'm going to be completed because I'm with someone else, instead of I am completed because I'm pursuing my own dreams. We talk a lot about being a high value woman to
Yes.
meet a high value partner. And I don't mean that it doesn't matter how much money you make, or it's not what it is. It's a high value woman has her own thing and her own dreams, and she's pursuing them. And she's done the work to heal so that she can choose someone that together they're going to move forward. So I think it's so important to heal first, because you make a better decision in a partner.
Absolutely. And I think it's more about, like you say, it's not about material things and what you
No,
have and don't have. It's more about the energy and frequency that you're operating in.
yeah, right. Yeah, the energy and frequency. I love that. Like the energy and frequency of of healing, dreaming, future focus, and gratefulness, right? And I admit I wasn't always like that. Like I had to learn. I had some, thank God I had a good therapist that just kind of like one of those therapists that doesn't just like listen to you and say, okay, you want to book your next appointment, but one that was like, listen, you need to stop this. Right?
If
So
you
I
to do
think,
the reality check.
right. Yeah. I think you need something like, if your therapist is not giving you reality checks, go find a new one. But she was very specific on helping me rebuild, because I was bitter and angry for probably over a year. Very angry because, I thought that, the church had taught me that, well, if I'm pure and I abstain until marriage, and then that gives me a better chance at, if I'm supposed to have a great marriage because I did all the right things, right? And that's supposed to give me extra blessings, and it didn't work. And I was mad, and I had sacrificed my whole career and I was bitter. And there were people that kind of said, why not? You should be bitter and angry. And a lot of us, you have every excuse in the world and you deserve to be upset about what happened, but that doesn't fix anything. And it doesn't make anything better. It doesn't make anything easier. Instead, just be able to, I did this visualization, and sometimes I still do it, of parking your pain in the past. So, and I imagine like putting all the junk from the church, from purity culture, from abuse from my ex, and I put it in this trunk of this old beater car. And I imagine like driving it down to this river and like putting it in the river and putting it in park. And then I just run away. And I park all that pain in the past, and it gets over and it's gone. And then all I do is pursue the future. Because really the only thing we have is right now. The past is gone. The future isn't quite written yet, or at least we don't know what it is yet. And we just have right now. So why not just enjoy right now instead of just constantly complaining and just like, what? Today's a great day. I got a good
Yes.
workout today. I'm going to chill out and relax today. I might even take a nap. Like I'm excited.
I have a similar, rhetoric, and I don't know whether you've heard it or not, but it goes, yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, today is the present.
Yeah.
That's why we call it a gift.
It is. Yeah. Today's a gift and I'm okay today. So I'm going to enjoy it and I'm going to do the best I can to love my husband and love my children. Um, I don't know how much you talk about this with your audience when it comes to love, but there's something also interesting when we're love and hurt. I think it's one of the most painful things that a human being can experience, right? But also now I have a much better marriage now because I was hurt, because I appreciate my husband more than I probably would have if I hadn't have gone through the pain, right?
Yes.
It's like, I'm just like, and I cherish that relationship so much that I would never say a cross word. And I would never just flippantly, just because I had a bad day, treat him in a way that he didn't deserve to be treated. And I think as a young woman, I got married at 22 years old. I think as a young woman, I didn't know that. And now I do. And I think the crash of my first marriage made me actually have a better second marriage. I don't know. It's hard to believe. You hear people give statistics all the time that they say, oh, the second marriage has an increased risk of divorce. And I was like, really? Is that just because people don't do the work to heal? Because I just think like this is so much better and I'm so much better at it. I don't know. What do you think about that statistic?
I don't know. I mean, people come up with different statistics about different things all the
Yeah.
time that can be different in, depending on which country you're in and what have you.
Yeah.
I also think, there's probably too much pressure on us to think, not to want to be skeptical about entering into a long-term relationship. I don't want that at all. I mean, we'll go into a relationship thinking it's going to be forever, don't we? We don't go into it thinking, well, if it don't work, we can get divorced. But on the
True.
other hand, I do think we put too much pressure on ourselves because we don't necessarily think of our friendships necessarily lasting forevermore. And
Yeah.
sometimes, with my ex-husband, for example, there was no toxicity there. We just grew apart. We were together for 23 years, and we just grew apart, and
Yeah.
it would just become a same old, boring
Yeah.
routine, for want of a better expression, I suppose.
Hmm.
Um, but at the end of the day, I don't sort of I didn't put on my daughters the fact that they should have the expectation that relationships, especially romantic relationships, last forever. It's nice if they do, but I
Right.
do feel that there is a big expectation that they should, and maybe if we just relax a little bit and just thought, like you say, live in the present, enjoy the
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Like I'm real happy now. Yeah. I
Yeah,
love that.
exactly.
I saw I saw a meme. I don't know if they use that same word across the pond, as you say, but like just a funny quote on social media. And it said, what if marriage licenses needed to be renewed every 4 years? Like, and you just knew that that was going to happen. I was like, like I mean, I don't know if I'm all there, but like, I get it. Like, I get it.
Yes, yeah.
Like, then we'd all work harder and be better at our relationships, I think.
Well, the trouble is as well, we're not taught life skills in schools, are we? And
Oh,
we're not necessarily,
I know.
having great role models as parents. I know my parents weren't great role models for a great relationship. They were terrible. But,
Yep.
at the end of the day, I do feel like it is something that ought to be taught in schools,
Yeah.
alongside financial management, for example, as a life skill. Um,
Hmm.
Healthy relationships is important, not just sex
Oh,
education, and not that schools are very good at teaching that these days either.
I know. Lynn, like, I 100% agree with you. And I think that that is even more of a reason why you should work on having the healthiest relationship for yourself, especially if you're a single mother or a single father and you have children and you're like, I don't want to give my children this bad example. I'm a third generation single mom. My grandmother was a widow. My mother got divorced. So that's all I knew. And I did not have an example. So I had to pour myself into learning about healthy relationships, going to therapy. And then also I want to break the cycle. I have two daughters and a son. I want to break the cycle for them. So all the more reason not to believe the false reward that it's better to be single for the rest of your life while you're raising kids. And instead go, no, especially if you had a bad or parents like I'm sure they tried their best, but if they gave you a bad relationship example, then okay, let's fix this. Let's do everything we can to learn how to have a high emotional IQ with your children and not be authoritarian and decide to find a way to model the healthiest relationship instead of teach them that it's scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah,
as I say, I do think, this ought to be taught in schools from a young age, not
right.
not just healthy relationships,
Oops.
in terms of romantic sense for younger children, but they can be taught about having a healthy relationship with themselves and how they view themselves,
That would have
can't
helped
they?
me more than calculus. Yeah, more than more
Yeah,
than
that's going to be more
I'm sure some people
beneficial.
need to know that, but
Yeah, absolutely.
I
But
agree with you.
yeah, so if children were affirmed from a young age, they're fantastic, they're beautiful, they're
Right.
great, their bodies are perfect regardless of how they look,
Yeah.
and they shouldn't be comparing themselves to other kids or stereotypes in the media. Then wouldn't that be wonderful?
It would be. And honestly, I don't want to bash all churches. Not all churches are bad. It's just the organization that I grew up in was. And, but churches should be doing that, in my opinion. And instead of teaching this abstinence culture and this purity culture, we should be teaching and modeling healthy relationships. If marriage is that important, we need to teach children how to have an equal relationship, men and women, treat them as equals rather than teaching the patriarchal relationship. Maybe it's I think a lot of it is churches and communities. It's their and parents, our job to teach how to have a healthy relationship. And the recent research, I have a good friend, Sheila Gregoire. She has a podcast called the Bare Marriage Podcast, BARE. Fantastic. She does a lot of research. And she found that, the type of relationship that is best for women is egalitarian. The patriarchal relationship, which is taught by most churches and traditional environments, is man's the head of the household, right? And women are kind of we're submissive.
Yeah, or subservient. Yeah.
That has the highest rate of unhappiness for women is the patriarchal relationship. The egalitarian relationship, where we're equal partners, we're making decisions together, has the highest rate of happiness for women and men. So, but yet our religious institutions still model and teach the patriarchal relationship. So I would say be careful what you're learning and what you're modeling and what you're teaching your kids. Because if our job truly, like, we want to be happy, we want to experience life, and we want to have healthy relationships. So we must start modeling it and teaching the egalitarian model.
100% agree. So for
Mhm.
all our listeners' benefit, Amanda, what's the best way that they can connect with you?
Find me on Instagram. I'm very, very active on Instagram. Send me a message and DM me. I'm the one that answers. It's at the real Amanda Carroll, 2 R's and 2 L's. So Amanda, Carroll, the real Amanda Carroll. And find me there, message me. And if you want, I have an online community. You can be a member of it, the Single Mom Collective. We meet 3 times a week, talk about all these issues, help you heal from your past, help you have peace with your ex and learn how to co parent, and help you heal and date, learn how to use the dating apps to find a high value partner. And I offer a 7-day free trial. And after that, it's just 37 US a month, and you can cancel at any time and you can get all the support that you need. I've got the links there, and um, I've made it as affordable as I can to help every single mother heal and to have peace and find love.
That's fantastic. So any final words of wisdom around single mums and dating?
Um, Well, okay, I've got like 8 things popped into my head at one time, but I only want to share one. So let me say this one. It was funny because I just got a text from a mom or a DM who's interested in joining the Single Mom Collective. And I was like, hey, what's your greatest challenge? What is your dream scenario? And she made a crude comment and she said, something about I just want to be able to like hurt her ex's private parts. We'll just say that the way she said it. And it was kind of funny the way she said it. And I was like, haha, okay, I get it. I was like, well, do you know what the best revenge is? Because I get it. A lot of us at first, when we're hurt, we want revenge. The best revenge is your success. So instead of focusing on being bitter and angry from your past, let's go be successful. And I said to her, I said, do you want to go find that? And she said, yeah, it feels a lot better. So go find your version of success and your version of happiness. And when you're so focused on achieving that, while you're running towards the dream and you're done dreaming small and you're stop fighting with your ex and you're just like, I'm doing me, pretty soon you're going to look over to your right and there's going to be another amazing partner that's running the same path. And you can say, hey, want to team up? And you guys become an empowering force that is a beautiful example of love and partnership for your family.
Excellent. So the moral of the story really is to just change one letter of the word bitter to become better.
Oh, that's even better. Mic drop. There you go. That's awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Amanda. It's been a fantastic conversation. I'd love to have you on again and have another conversation sometime in the near future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So it just leaves me to say that true love starts with opening our hearts. And until next time, goodbye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Hearts Entwined podcast. You can follow Lyn via the Facebook group Two Hearts Entwined, or search Lyn Smith, inspirational speaker, at LinkedIn, or email lyn@hearts-entwined.com. That's LYN@hearts-entwined.com. Remember, true love starts with opening our hearts.